Hello, speaking to you again from Glastonbury in my occasional series, speaking from the Bhagavad Gita. I've been thinking a lot during the course of this last week how much the present circumstances we all find ourselves in bring me back to thinking deeply on the teachings of Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. We're hearing so much at the moment about death, it seems to me. In this world it is said, as a rule, that everyone fears death. Death is the greatest fear. And that, of course, may be true. Personally, I have another point of view, whilst acknowledging that for many people death is a great fear. I think at a deeper level, it's actually what we're frightened of is life, because life is difficult. In fact, when death comes, I think that the soul is released for the time being from the pain and the uncertainty and the fear of life, and is given a great sense of reassurance and love before moving on to the next step. What we do know from Bhagavad Gita is that ultimately there is no such thing as death. It's simply a change of body. Now I want to look at what Krishna has to say in the Bhagavad Gita in chapter 8. The chapter begins with Arjuna asking Krishna, how can I remember you at the time of death? Let's see, he uses the Sanskrit prayana kale. This is the time when this particular cycle comes to an end. When that happens, it's a very significant moment, obviously. It's a time when whatever I've spent my life doing, whatever I've spent my life thinking about, will come to prominence naturally at the time of death. So it's sometimes said, for example, that soldiers on the field of battle, when they're mortally wounded, I've heard it said that a dying soldier will call out for his mother, which is very poignant and very understandable, because that's where the heart very often lies when all is said and done. The first experience of love, which most of us have in life, is to be held by our mother. However, of course, the relationship with my mother has to come to an end. And that ending can be very sad. It can also be a moment of joy, in a sense, when I was present at the end of my mother's life, when she breathed her last. Ironically, it was a time of real love. I mean, there was I felt a tremendous exchange of love between us, perhaps more than we had ever managed to uncover previously. But I felt a sense of joy, not laughing out loud joy, but a deep sense, because I felt very much that she was taken in love. I felt the presence of angels That was me. I felt angelic presence. The room seemed to light up, and I didn't feel. I knew that she had experienced some fear in the preceding weeks. I kept telling her, "Mum, you don't have to fear anything. There is only love." So, in the 8th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells Arjuna how to prepare for this inevitable time when we have to leave this mortal body. It's not death, it's a moment of departure. And like all departures, there's a saying goodbye, there's a letting go of whatever it was that I was surrounded by and fond of, but there's also a sense of anticipation. Now where am I going to go? So Krishna's advice to Arjuna is, the first thing really which he says to this is he says to remember me. And because he says anyone who remembers me at the time of death, anta kale chamam eva smarang muktva kalevaram, that person is released from the cycle of birth and death, and Krishna says achieves my nature. Now, what is Krishna's nature? Krishna's nature is to be full of love and joy for eternity. And that is also the nature of you and me. But when we're living in this world, we get so absorbed in the struggle of life that it's easy to lose sight of that my true nature is to be eternal and to be full of joy and full of conscious understanding of myself and of God. So Krishna says, therefore, he says, he's speaking to his friend Arjuna, who has a battle to fight. Symbolically, you could say, metaphorically, you could say, we all have battles to fight. It's a figurative way of speaking. Arjuna was actually in a battle, fighting for his life. So Krishna said to him, fight, but while you're fighting, think of me. Think of me, he says, sarveshu kaleshu. At all times, remember me. So that becomes the central theme, really, of the life of devotion. Trying to practice to remember Krishna at all times, to see Krishna in all things, to remember Krishna's presence here with me. And Krishna goes on to say, Mayapita mano buddhi, surrender your mind to me. Mano means mind. And so from that word we have the word mantra. Mantra is to release the mind. That's literally one of the literal meanings of the word mantra, to free the mind. So Krishna says, give your mind to me, surrender your mind to me. And so the practice of mantra, of chanting, especially to chant Krishna's name. God has many names, so if one has a particular name, that if I feel some affection, some attachment to a particular name, let me chant that name. But otherwise, the name Krishna, and this mantra is so powerful. Simply to repeat the name of Krishna places my mind at Krishna's feet. So Krishna says Mayapita Mano, and he also says Mayapita Buddhi. Buddhi is the normal translation of the word Buddhi is intelligence. I also like to translate that word as inspiration, and I just forget just now, the inspiration and intuition. That's right. Buddhi is that it's not the same as rational intelligence. It's the God-given intelligence. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, I am in the heart of every person, and I give intelligence, or buddhi, buddhi yoga. I give you buddhi by which you can come closer to me. So buddhi is that inner wisdom which we all possess, and Krishna says, surrender that to me. So the great practice really is, place my mind on Krishna, through meditating on Krishna, through serving Krishna, through making Krishna the focus of everything I do. And along with that comes buddhi, my deeper wisdom and intuition. And through that connection, Krishna starts to reveal himself to me. So Krishna says, Arjuna, my friend Arjuna, you should always think of me. And Prabhupada puts in here, how do we think of Krishna? He says, in the form of Krishna. This is Prabhupada's special mercy. Krishna is full of mercy. Prabhupada used to say that the devotee sometimes is even more merciful than God. In other words, you could say that the grace, the love, the mercy of Krishna, Krishna can communicate that to me through his loving devotee. So when Prabhupada translated this verse in Bhagavad Gita, he said, think of me, and he added, in the form of Krishna. That's guidance for us. That it's so simple. Simply to sit before the form of Krishna. Here you can see my shrine, and I have all kinds of pictures there. But in the very center is the picture of Krishna with Radha. So simply by meditating on that form, I can open my eyes and look, and sometimes also I can close my eyes and I can still see. That's the inner vision. So see the form of Krishna and also the name of Krishna. Think of me in the form of Krishna, Krishna says, and at the same time carry out your prescribed duty. Mam anusmara yudhyacha. Mam anusmara means always think of me. Yudhyacha, and he's saying to Arjuna, and fight. In Arjuna's case, it's fighting. I confess I'm not really much of a fighter myself. But as I say, we all have our struggles. And so even if my struggle, I don't know, is to get up in the morning. I mean, it can be an effort sometimes just to get up. But if I think of Krishna whilst making that effort, and all through the day, trying to remember Krishna, then Krishna says, if you do this, mam evaisyasya samshaya. Mam evaisyasya means you will come to me. And his final word is asangshaya, which means there is no doubt. There is no doubt. This world is full of uncertainty and doubt. Whatever I place my faith in, there's always the possibility that I will be disappointed. In fact, I will be disappointed. So, in the spiritual path, this is the one thing we're constantly assured of. Don't doubt. Don't doubt this. You have no need to doubt. And Krishna's final word in the Gita, of course, is you have no need to fear. All the imaginary enemies that we may contemplate in this world. And I have been aware since the onset of the current crisis in the world. Some of my friends, they start to get, I suppose, they're filled with fear really about all kinds of, they speculate about all kinds of enemies that may be imposing this circumstance on us and what they're going to do, you know, the rulers of the mundane world. And in this way, the mind gets filled with fear, which is then projected out onto these imagined enemies in the world. In the end, in this world, we actually don't have enemies, because nature, Krishna says in the Gita, under the influence of ego, I think myself to be the doer. I think I'm doing all these things. And similarly, I might look at others and think, this person is doing this, this person is doing this, this person is somehow against me or whatever. But Krishna says, in reality, under illusion, I think, kartaham iti manyate, that I myself am the doer. Kartaham means I'm the one who does. But he says, in actuality, all this is done by nature. Everything that happens in this world happens under a higher will. Prakriti is the name for nature, and it's all the effect of nature. Nature on many levels. Nature doesn't just mean in the philosophy of the Bhagavad Gita. Nature doesn't only mean the birds and the flowers or the weather. Nature means all the different levels of existence, which includes my mind, my wisdom, the whole range of the 8 elements from the physical all the way to the very subtle. This is all Prakriti or nature, and it's all happening under the control of ultimately of God. So whatever may seem to be, you know, sometimes threatening to me, I may, you know, feel fearful. Actually, it's all under the control of Krishna. So at the end of the Gita, the final word, Krishna says, just surrender to me, and you need have no fear. I will always protect you, and I will release you, mokshayishyami. I will release you from all these imagined troubles. It's just like in a dream. I may dream of a tiger coming to threaten me, and in my dream I may be filled with fear. And Prabhupada once told us, he said, the guru, the spiritual teacher, is like the one who just nudges me and wakes me up from my nightmare, and immediately all tigers gone, Prabhupada said. So this fear that is spreading around the world, of course it won't last, it will pass, but so will all the fears, the deeper fears, which we all have, of of death, and ultimately, as I say, I think the true fear is the fear of life itself, because life is filled with joy and love, but we unnecessarily fear it. So all fear will be taken away when we surrender to Krishna. Hare Krishna.
See you next.